Hey guys, long time no see. I want to make this video to talk about American culture. Everybody wants to come to America, right? It's like the land of the free, the home of the brave, the land of the American dream, right? But in this video, I want to make the claim that America is actually the worst country, the worst country in the world. And I'll give you more than enough solid evidence that you can take for yourself and you can see it just in your own observation. The people who see this video, who it's meant for, they are gonna wholeheartedly see it for themselves. And I'm not even gonna, they're already gonna have known what I'm gonna say in this video. But the people who are gonna leave hate comments and who are gonna like curse me and something, I want you to take a close look at who those people are, what their names are, what their culture is, what their skin color is, and I I think you see kind of where this video is gonna go. But it's been a while, guys. I've been on my other have another YouTube channel. I have a little crypto project. I'm a crypto guy, and it's been making money, so I have to double and triple down over there for the time being. And I'm still over here doing the language stuff. I'm still with the girlfriend, and everything is still up, and we're still kicking, and we're still alive. But in this video, we'll dive deep into why it is that I think American culture is the worst culture and America is the worst country in the world. So, when I came back to America after 3 years, almost 4 years living abroad, the before I can even get my feet on the ground, the customs officer, I can see like when I'm next in line, this guy, he he scrunches up his face in look of disgust and disdain, and so he has his mask on, talking to me, a fake kind of politeness, and then he asks me like a question about my box because from Vietnam, people they get boxes, and it's just I used to work at the airport over many years, and just you see people with boxes, and it's just a normal thing. And so he approaches me. He's like, "Oh, like what's in that box, son? Like, are you gonna blah 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 blah?" As if I'm a criminal, right? As if I didn't already have it scanned through three different checkpoints internationally, and I'm not giving my passport to have my face scanned to, be already vulnerable to um, be arrested if I was carrying any contraband, right? But living abroad, dealing with the police over there, there's one time I ran the red light, and so the officer, hey, 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 and he says you ran the red light, so from like the very first words that he gives me, it's probable cause, more than a reasonable articulable suspicion to have me pulled over. I look up and over and I see sure enough that the light is red. So I'm like, all right, you got me. I'm guilty. There's no question. And so I paid the little coffee money and I'm on my way. Another time I drive down the wrong, there's like a car lane and a bike lane. I drive down the car lane and I'm in a bike. So the cop, he comes and pulls me over. I have to pay a little bit of coffee money. And these times when I meet the police, sure, I don't want to have to pay coffee money, but when you're in a different country, you definitely have to make sure that you follow the rules. And if you break the rules, you're subject to jurisdiction, just like the other people. And the discrimination that I face over there is people looking at me, looking at my face. They look at my skin color and they say, "Oh, he's a foreigner. He probably has money." So they assume kind of the best of me to scam me in a way. He has money. He has money. Look at him. He's here. He can come and travel. He looks like he's fed. He's fat. He has money. They can just tell by common sense that I have at least a couple of dollars that I can pay some coffee money and buy some chicken, you know. But I can tell you, even there was a time in the States they broke into my house and they stole something from me. And so when I called the police, Dave Chappelle, he did a skit on this, that somebody broke into his house and they cuffed him and they dragged him out. So even though there were pictures of him hung up on the wall in his own house, the police still came and they took him away. You can see where I'm going with this is that of all of my years studying different languages and living abroad in different countries, the problem that I face, it's not even the police, because I see that the police across this line, they treat me fairly. The police across this line, they treat me unfairly. Okay? I see that of the friends that I made in Vietnam, the only group, there's a group that they didn't like that their girl was talking to me. So I get it. You don't like me because your girl likes talking to me. I'm not even trying to talk to her. But, you have probable cause to not like somebody who your girl is talking to. I get it, there was a teacher at the school, she saw that the students, they were being nicer to me than her, even though she's a more tenured teacher, people, they're not going to like that. Even there was a church that I went to that the congregation, came to me more for wisdom, and they gave testimony of the revelation from the words out of my mouth and the wisdom from my experience, and not the pastor. And he saw that on a consistent basis, and he didn't like me because of that. On these lines where I can see the cause and I know the reason, I can adjust my kind of strategy, right? Like, so, okay, don't look at this girl, kind of be mean to her. Then the guy, he'll let off a little bit. Oh, well, I should probably just go find a different job, because there's always going to be somebody who's not going to like me at some school, because everybody keeps saying that I'm the friendliest. So there's just something about me that people just really like, I might as well, I have to go to a church that the pastor has more wisdom than I do, more discernment. He's closer to the Lord than I am, who can lead me in righteousness, because that's hard for me to find, a pastor who knows the Lord more than I do. But all of these lines together, the one group of people who I see mostly 2/3, 66, nearly 70%, 2 out of 3 people in this group, no matter in the world that I find them, no matter if it's in like their native ethnic country or outside, no matter how much money I have, no matter if I'm speaking a language in another culture, talking to all the girls and having a cool job, being a cool teacher, and like I actually am invited to speak on stage as a career professional, and invited to speak on stage at church, invited to whichever other circle that I find myself in, where I'm meeting high influential people that everyone else can at least give me a chance. If I'm good, great. If I'm not good, you're not going to want to have anything to do with anybody who's not good. But the one group of people who I see unconditional hatred and cruelty from, without any regard for my life, without any regard for my feelings. I could even say something to them sometimes, and they'll just completely ignore me, and they'll act as if I didn't even say anything, as if my words are just thin air, as if I'm literally nobody. It's gonna be white people. It's gonna be white people. Specifically, more so the men. About 80% of that 66%, about half, I see give me the hate stare. I'll tell you a story. There was a guy from the 1950s, a white guy in the States. He did a social experiment. He painted his face blackface, went blackface, and he infiltrated the black community. He wanted to see like what it's like being a black in America. Amongst all the rumors and what people say, he wanted to see for himself. So he colored his face in, and he went into the, just to society. And he said that smiles that were once smiles before turned into frowns. Doors that were open were closed. He couldn't drink at the same water fountain anymore. He noticed, he pointed out this phenomena, the hate stare. The feeling of just somebody, it's so dense and it's so potent, the feeling behind the look of the intent of this glare, that you can feel it physically, whichever direction it's coming from, in the intensity that it's coming at you, that you can feel this thing spiritually in your physical body. It's so intense, this hatred that most white people have. And so this guy, they didn't like that he exposed them. They started burning crosses on his lawn. They called him the inward lover, like this, and he finally had to go to Mexico for safety. And I think that tells everything that you need to know about the heart and the fruit of this culture, is that there's a long list. Even though black people are responsible, foundational black Americans, for over 90% of the inventions and the innovation that makes up the Western world, even though it's from Africa that they took not just the gold but the people to come and build this place. After seeing so many decades go by, and still hearing stories that insurance companies aren't paying out to black people, that there was a time that we were sharecroppers after we were free, right? That we took fried chicken and watermelon and we made wealth from it, still making slave wages, right? What did they do? White people, they came in, they burned the towns down, and they put up caricatures mocking and making fun of us. That's where the meme of black people, watermelon, and fried chicken came from, is white people mocking us for nothing. And so they took the demand and they took it for themselves. There's making money, let's kill these people and let's take it for ourselves. That's always been the pattern. And it's not everyone, but it's 2 out of 3 people who I experienced this kind of hateful glare. That even my own father, he is a white guy, he even told me way back when I was little, living in North Carolina back then, that people would just yell out "inward lover" to him in public, just out in the open. Still alive, racist America. And it's even in more full force now today than it has ever been. And I'm not the only person who can tell you this thing for certain, that you'll see that the feminist movement is also here. So did you know that white, Western, middle and upper class men, they make up the lion's share of pedophiles in the world? And so you hear about like Epstein and like all that stuff, but I could put out like Pee Wee Herman and Jared the Subway guy, and about Chris Hansen. They shut down To Catch a Predator, the TV show, because they were finding too many top and influential white men who they could not afford to offend. right? So he decided to still keep doing it by himself on his own YouTube channel. And there's like a dozen other professional teams going out and catching these monsters. Because, I mean, every race partakes in this thing, not as much as them, but like at least, I hear about an Asian guy going to meet an underage girl or boy. He's at least doing it under some lines of consent, even though it's wrong and even though it's still rape. Same thing with the black guy. They're still kind of trying to have like some kind of relationship with the kid. But white guys, they're the only ones who will take and bind a child and tie them up and have their way. I heard horrific stories. They tie their elbows to their knees and then their wrists to their ankles, and then they take them like this. And I saw a video, some mailman, he just picked up a little girl, just jumped in his truck, and like it's you can see on the video, like he says like, you're very pretty, can you take your shirt off? And she's like, are you a kidnapper? I want an adult. You can see she knows that it's wrong, and he knows that it's wrong, because in all of my evil, me going out and smoking that thing and drinking that thing, and I'll go and sleep with that person. I'm not a perfect person. I've made some mistakes in my life. It has never crossed me to do something so vile and atrocious, just evil, straight up evil, violent, and so cruel to a child, the most defenseless in society. That these are the stories that I hear of white men, exclusively, well, almost exclusively them. That when I connect the dots, when I figured out that feminists, they come from a culture where the men, they abuse them from a young age, and they grow up watching them share the same cruelty with blacks and with Mexicans and with Asians to a certain extent, not respecting them, not treating them as human beings, not giving them human dignity, not allowing them the space just to prosper and to grow by themselves. They always have to manipulate something around them to fulfill their own agenda of this eugenics program that they're trying to push, and this cultural or ethnic cleansing that they're propagating. Because even Western white men love Asian women, right? It's the number 2 most common mixed couple pair on the planet. White guy and Asian girl. Everybody, Asian guys are all talking about this. White guys, they love it. But me as a black guy, my take on it is that those men, they realize that a woman who doesn't have a white father, who doesn't have white brothers, who doesn't have white uncles and cousins, and he didn't grow up in the white system under the white propaganda with the mantra of everything going on in this white culture, that they themselves realize that that woman over there outside of the fruit of their own way of thinking is a better option to go down long term with than a woman from their own culture. And you see these guys, they go abroad, they mostly go to the Philippines and places where they can get their hands on underage girls, underage children, both boys and girls. Do they chase more than anybody on the planet, right? You can see the story of the Aussie guy. He went and slept with the underage girl, and she ended up dead, stuffed in a suitcase. And these are the stories, which is why in Vietnam right now they changed the law. You have to declare with the government if somebody is going to stay over at your house overnight and you're not married, because they see these kinds of stories happen so often. And it's not black guys that are going abroad and sleeping with underage children and murdering them. It's not, well, some Asian guys might, travel. Girls in Vietnam, they're very cautious of Korean guys, and I mean, some may like Chinese guys, as many of them study Chinese, but very few of them actually marry and date and get with. The guy has to be like from Hong Kong or Taiwan or something, and he has to be very good. He has to be very like emotionally intelligent, you know, and something like that. But they the girls over there, they tell me stories. I was hanging out with one girl, and she said, she's hanging out with one white guy, and he said, "Oh, I'm gonna just collect Vietnamese women. I'm gonna get one to cook my food. I'm gonna get one to do my laundry. I'm gonna get one to rub my feet. I'm just gonna have like all of these like slaves, these workers around me, just because I'm white, and I'm gonna do it." And she didn't like that. She felt disrespected by that. You know, I had another friend, she posted something on social media. She said, all of these foreigners keep calling me Chinese. Why do these foreigners keep just saying, even though she's not Chinese, she's Vietnamese and she's in Vietnam, but they keep calling her that she's Chinese. And I commented, I said, it's only the white ones who are doing that. And she said, yeah, it's only the white ones that are coming to my country and racially discriminating against me in my own land, in a place they lost and they had to get out. They came back and they're still trying to give me the business. Because I talked to some girls, they say about some times they met a black guy and it just seems like a normal conversation and they had fun and they liked it. But the reason why America is so horrible is because of the cruelty, the culture of treating others as if they're not human beings. It's still very alive and well. And if you want to come here, and if you want to experience it, and if you want to have white friends, you need to pay close attention to how they treat black people, because that'll tell you everything about their virtue. Because the 2/3 of white people who hate black people, who want them dead, I can very, very surely tell you that's the case. It's the same group that's gonna call Asians out of their name. It's the same group that's gonna scam you, rob you during the contract, in the work. They're not gonna go and like rob you in the street per se, but they'll deduct your wages without you knowing. They'll take it from the back end, not from the front. They'll still rob you, and you'll still have the same amount of money gone from your pocket. But since it's a white collar crime at that point, it doesn't seem as bad. But the heart and the ill intent is the same. And white people, they always hide behind this plausible deniability. I'm a police officer, so you have to do what I say. Oh, you're resisting arrest, so I'm gonna shoot you. Oh, I'm a judge and I find you guilty, even though all the evidence proves against, your conviction. That the reason why these guys, here is where it all comes down. The reason why these guys, they go to Asia to find women that they can't get them in their own country is because of the hatred and the violence and the cruelty that is in their own hearts. Because women, as I'm growing up in wisdom in the world, I find out that women, they're emotional and they fall in love with how you make them feel. And a lot of that has to do with your own inner state and the strength in your own spirit. They can tell 2 seconds after seeing you for the first time if they like you or not. And they're very keen on reading the room and knowing the atmosphere of a place. This is kind of their strength, women, they're like kind of like this. And so you have a whole culture Well, not just cultures, not in America, just in Canada, in Australia, and even in South Africa, in Israel, especially in Israel, where you're gonna find this feminism, this kind of not wanting to cooperate with the man and wanting to not have his babies and to make him pay and to not trust men. That I used to think they were all crazy, and then I connected the dots that this is the same group of men who are so ambitious to drag my dignity through the dirt whenever it is that they can, to show me that I'm beneath them however they can. And because if you look at online, corn, white corn on some corn sites, right? They're the only group choking their women, the only ones slapping them, dirty talk, cursing at them to drive their dignity, as if they want to take it from the back and put it in their mouth. And degrading others is the only way that they feel satisfied. So the very worst part about Western culture is the 2/3 is the majority of white people who will never show you face, who will never invite you into the in group, who are gonna make it clear some way or another that they think that they're better than you, and they're gonna try to take advantage of you financially and spiritually and morally. They're gonna be with you, sleep with you, and then they're gonna come allegations of them being a pedophile. You're gonna be with them, and then you're gonna catch something because they went out and they slept with a ladyboy somewhere and they didn't get checked and they didn't get cleaned. You're gonna feel that they are not gonna really lead emotionally. And they may have money, sure. They may have some status somewhere, but when it comes to every single little thing, to even if I went to go deliver a couch at some white people's house, and the guy, he turned to his wife, "Oh, they're here, honey. Like, where do you want it, honey? How does this look? How do you feel about this, honey? Honey, but honey." Every single turn, every single time that there was a decision to be made, he leaned on his wife to make it, and I could see the exhaustion and the age in her face from always having to be his mommy. And I needed to put this out there somewhere. I needed to get all my thoughts out because this had been stewing inside for so long, and I had nowhere to go. And so now that it's out there, I do feel all relieved. And thanks, guys, for coming all the way to the end of the video. Go ahead and like and subscribe. We're still over here making videos. I got my Meta Ray-Bans. I'm still waiting on one more accessory before I really go out there. My other channel, I can kind of do it faceless, and I'm doing it 100% online, and it's very easy for me to stay consistent to post and stuff over there, but I've just been busy doing other things. So keep rocking with me, y'all. If you have any comments, if you want to add anything to what I said, if you think that American culture is the best culture, tell me why in the comments. If you agree with me, then also tell me why in the comments, guys. So with that said, I'll see you again. God bless.